Despite growing inequalities between the rich and the poor, there's not been a corresponding swell of public support to increase redistribution through taxation and public spending. Here we're faced with a paradox. Rising inequalities appear to be actually reducing the conditions under which social solidarity might be fostered and public action can close the gap. In an attempt to make the case for government intervention, a great deal of research has been rightly done to highlight the worst effects of these developments on low-income citizens. However, if the rich have the most social, political and economic influence over the institutions that govern inequalities, we also need to start looking up more for answers to better inform policy and practice. To do this, we need to get a clearer sense of what drives the policy preferences of economic elites, and make use of the lessons learned to galvanise popular support for welfare and redistribution. Attitudinal differences towards welfare, inequality and redistribution tend to be characterised as self-interested, depending on the social or economic position of people. Affluent individuals, critical of welfare and reluctant for more redistribution, are described as selfishly protecting their assets. Similarly, those in relative deprivation, who are supportive of welfare and critical of inequality, are often described as self-interested and lazy, seeking resources they hadn't earned. However, the reality is that our attitudes towards welfare, inequality and redistribution are not fixed. They're shaped by our biographical experience and the knowledge we accumulate along the way. Lived experiences of inequality, then, can substantially affect our stated knowledge about the relative role of individual agency in shaping social outcomes and position, which in turn informs public attitudes and the construction of material interests. The rich, as much as the poor, will support a social, economic and welfare system that reflects the way they believe the world works, but also one from which they feel they have most gained. Lived experiences of relative deprivation and affluence create distinct understandings and explanations of social stratification and difference. The respectively received disadvantages and privilege of people shape their social view of the world, including their own position within it. This matters because increasing social and economic polarisation between the rich and the poor is leading to marked differences in their exposure to social risks and the constrained nature of individual agency within an unequal system. As affluent individuals become increasingly divorced from the precarities of daily life, their ability or willingness to identify with the circumstances and experience of others becomes limited. There is a window of opportunity to overcome this, though. Increased socio-material insecurity, experienced by median voters in the squeezed middle, may also serve to increase exposure to, and thus awareness of, structural inequality. An emerging line of inquiry then is to establish how exposure to such conditions can help boost popular support for welfare and redistribution across the whole population, not just amongst the rich and the poor.